हाय एवरीवन, वेलकम बैक टू आरकेवी ब्लॉग्स। ओके, आरकेवी ब्लॉग्स में आप सभी को स्वागत है। नाउ आज का हमारा टारगेट हम सेट करेंगे, ठीक है। फार्मास्यूटिक्स का ये जीपेट का बुक है। ओके, ठीक है। 100 क्वेश्चन हम प्रैक्टिस करेंगे। ये 100 क्वेश्चन जो प्रैक्टिस करेंगे मैं बता दे रहा हूँ। हमारा जर्नी जो होने वाला है वो देखेंगे, लेकिन ये ऊपर ऊपर से स्टडी है। ओके, ठीक है। स्टडी का बहुत सारे पैटर्न होता है। ऊपर ऊपर स्टडी भी कहीं ना कहीं आपको हेल्पफुल होता है, जरूर होता है। एंड ये डेप्थ स्टडी बिल्कुल नहीं है। ये जस्ट ऊपर ऊपर से स्टडी है, मतलब क्वेश्चन प्रैक्टिस, ठीक है। क्वेश्चन प्रैक्टिस बहुत तरीके से होता है। जैसे मान लीजिए, मैं आगे चल करके बताऊंगा क्वेश्चन, जैसे जैसे क्वेश्चन पढ़ूंगा आपको पता चल जाएगा। मान लीजिए एक सिंपल एक बता दे रहा हूँ। हु इज द फादर ऑफ आवर नेशन? महात्मा गांधी, कपिल चंद्र बनर्जी, सोमनाथ चटर्जी, बंकिम चंद्र चट्टोपाध्याय। मान लीजिए ये 4 ऑप्शन हुआ है, तो करेक्ट ऑप्शन क्या है? महात्मा गांधी। तो इस तरह से जो पढ़ते हैं उसे हम बोलते हैं ऊपर ऊपर से स्टडी। और डेप्थ ऑफ द स्टडी क्या है? डेप्थ ऑफ द स्टडी है कि दोनों केस में आंसर सेम आएगा। ऊपर ऊपर स्टडी में महात्मा गांधी आएगा, डेप्थ ऑफ द स्टडी में महात्मा गांधी आएगा। लेकिन डेप्थ ऑफ द स्टडी आपको ये मांगता है कि नाउ ये जो डेप्थ ऑफ द स्टडी, ये आपको जनरली क्या मांगता है? ये मांगता है कि महात्मा गांधी अगर देश के फादर है, फादर ऑफ आवर नेशन, वो क्यों है? क्योंकि देश को कंट्रीब्यूट करने के लिए बहुत सारे लोग हैं। देश को थोड़ी ना महात्मा गांधी अकेला कंट्रीब्यूट किया था। तो मैं ये जानना चाहता हूं, सुभाष चंद्र बोस क्यों देश के फादर ऑफ नेशन नहीं हो सकते हैं? फकीर मोहन सेनापति क्यों देश के प्रधानमंत्री नहीं हो सकते हैं? मतलब कोई पूछ सकता है ना। तो ये जो फादर ऑफ द नेशन इनको बनाया गया है, ये किस बेसिस पर बनाया गया है? मतलब क्या ये राजनीतिक था? क्या ये मिली भगत था? क्या ये उस समय में इनका सिर्फ सिक्का चलता था, इसी कारण से इनको बनाया गया था? या फिर इनका कुछ कंट्रीब्यूशन ऐसा था जो इंडिया के जियोपॉलिटिक्स को या फिर इंडिया के इंटरेस्ट को पूरी तरीके से एक नया दिग्दर्शन देने का काम इन्होंने किया था? अगर दिग्दर्शन देने का काम किया था तो बाकी लोग भी तो दिग्दर्शन दिए थे। महाराणा प्रताप भी दिए थे, वो भी बहुत बड़े काम कर गए। आपके जो छत्रपति शिवाजी महाराज, ये भी देश के प्रधान, मतलब फादर हो सकते थे। तो ऐसा क्या था, वो एक्सप्लेन करो। एंड बाकी जो 3 ऑप्शन, ये जो चट्टोपाध्याय मैंने बोला था, वो तीनों कौन है? इस तरीके से जब हम स्टडी करते हैं, इसे बोला जाता है डीप स्टडी। डीप स्टडी एक होता है ऊपर ऊपर से स्टडी, एक होता है इंटरमीडिएट स्टडी, एक होता है आपका एडवांस स्टडी कह लो, एक होता है एक्स्ट्रा एडवांस, पूरा जो प्रो मैक्स वाला स्टडी, जिसमें आप हर एक वर्ड को, हर एक सेंटेंस के मीनिंग को, एंड ये क्यों हो सकता है, ये क्यों नहीं हो सकता है, मतलब हर चीज के अंदर घुस जाना, इसे बोला जाता है डेप्थ ऑफ द स्टडी। ठीक है, तो मैं आपको इस, क्योंकि ये ब्लॉग बना रहा हूँ, मैं आपको ये बता दे रहा हूँ कि ये ऊपर ऊपर से स्टडी है, हम ऊपर ऊपर से जाएंगे। ठीक है ना, उसके लिए हम ये बायोफार्मास्यूटिक्स, तो आज बायोफार्मास्यूटिक्स के बारे में हम कवर कर लेते हैं। ठीक है, क्योंकि हमारे पास टाइम लिमिटेड है, इसीलिए हम क्या करेंगे, ऊपर ऊपर से जाने की कोशिश करेंगे। ठीक है, टाइम बहुत ज़्यादा कम है, इसी कारण से हम मतलब पूरी अच्छे से स्टडी करने के लिए टाइम लगता है। ठीक है, तो आज का जो हमारा टारगेट रहेगा वो हम कोशिश करेंगे 100 क्वेश्चन का। प्रीवियसली मैंने 135 ऑलरेडी कर दिया था, ब्लॉग नहीं बनाया था, लेकिन 135 बायोफार्मास्यूटिक्स का मैंने कवर ऑलरेडी कर दिया था। ठीक है, नाउ आज हम 136 के 6 से जनरली क्या करेंगे, स्टार्ट करेंगे ना। बहुत ही गर्मी हो रहा है, थोड़ा फैन को हम क्या करेंगे, ऑन कर देंगे। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय हरये परमात्मने प्रणतक्लेशनाशाय चलो Which one of these is not an approach to make the drug cross the blood-brain barrier? Which one of these is not an approach to make the drug cross the blood-brain barrier using permeation enhancer, osmotic disruption of the blood-brain barrier, use of a highly lipophilic drug only, use of a drug carriers to cross the blood-brain barrier? So 136 का क्वेश्चन आंसर हो जाएगा आपका सी, यूज ऑफ अ हाईली lipophilic drug only. Which of the following statement is false regarding the blood-brain barrier? The walls of the capillaries supplying the brain have tight fitting cell, making it difficult for polar drug to leave the capillaries. The capillaries in the brain have a fatty coating, making it more difficult for the drug to enter the brain. Okay, इसे और छोटा करके पढ़ेंगे। 137C. The walls of the capillaries supplying the brain are made up of several layers of cells which act as a barrier to the release of the drug. 137. If a drug is slowly distributed into the tissue, suggest the preferred physiochemical property to be modified for achieving high volume of distribution value. 138 आपका हो जाएगा डी, पार्टीशन कोएफिशिएंट। ठीक है, from the point of a comparison of two formulation, which parameter is not considered? From the point of a comparison of two formulation, which parameter is not considered? 139 ହେଇଗଲା ଆପଣଙ୍କର D, that is equal to volume of distribution. Drugs that are poorly lipid soluble, polar or extensively ionized at the pH of the blood generally do which of the following? 140 ହେଇଗଲା A, that is equal to penetrate the CNS very slowly and may be eliminated from the body before a significant concentration in the CNS is reached. 141 number question. Dihydropyridine redox system is associated with that is called to targeting polar drug to brain. Which is used as a marker to determine total body water volume. That is called to 142. ये गला A. Antipyrine. What is the function of the blood-testis barrier? 143. That is equal to D. Restrict the passage of a drug to the spermatocyte and spermatid. Identify the incorrect statement. 144 ये गला D. All are correct statement. Identify the incorrect statement. सी हमको कहिछि आइडेंटिफाई करो इनकरेक्ट स्टेटमेंट को. All are correct statement. So dihydropyridine redox system used to deliver steroidal drug to the brain. Permeability is the rate limiting step in the distribution of a drug where effective partition coefficient is the driving force. Only highly lipid soluble drug can cross the blood and cerebrospinal fluid barrier. Yes, all are correct. तो इनमें से इनकरेक्ट स्टेटमेंट कुछ भी नहीं है. An antibiotic has a clearance rate of renal 0.06 by hour and a non-renal 0.02 per hour. What is the approximate half-life of this drug if the patient VD is 28 liter? 145 ହେଲା तमर A, that is equal to 8.7 hour. A drug has elimination half-life of 3 hours and its apparent VD is 100 ml per kg. What is the total body clearance of this drug in a 70 kg in term of liter per hour? What is the total body clearance? Total body clearance 70 kg. One 146 B 1.61 per hour. The biological half-life of protein in patient was 35 minutes and its VD was estimated to be 60 liter. The total clearance of protein is 147. A. if the volume of a distribution of a drug in 33 liter, it indicates that the drug is 148 distributed throughout the body. The volume of a distribution of a drug administered at a dose of 300 mg and exhibiting 30 microgram per ml instantaneous concentration in plasma shall be 149 C 0.11 0.1 liter I think. The procedure of transporting a drug from the blood stream to the tissue is called as, that is called to 150C distribution. Which of the following drug bound to the alpha acid glycoprotein? Alpha acid glycoprotein 151 A. Imipramine. Reversible transfer of a drug. Reversible transfer of a drug from one compartment to another compartment is known as distribution. Which of the following drugs shows perfusion rate limited distribution? 153 ये होगा तुम्हारा A, that is equal to thiopental. Which of the following method are used to study drug distribution pattern? Which of the following method are used to study drug distribution pattern? 154 ये होगा तुम्हारा D, that is equal to all of the above. Which of the following method are used to study drug distribution pattern? That is called to positron emission tomography, that is called to PET. positron emission tomography, ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ହେଉଛି microdialysis, ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ହେଉଛି MALDI MSI. Okay. Which of the following marker is used to measure the total body water? 155 C, that is called to deuterium oxide and antipyrine. Dash is the hypothetical volume of a body fluid that is required to dissolve the amount of a drug needed to achieve the same concentration in the blood. Dash is the hypothetical volume of a body fluid that is required to dissolve the amount of a drug needed to achieve the same concentration in the blood. 156 ये वाला तुम्हारा C, apparent volume of a distribution. Why thiopental rapidly diffuses into the brain? Because it is. Why thiopental rapidly diffuses into the brain? Because it is 157 है वाला C, unionized at plasma pH. Phenyl butazone binds to dash site of albumin. 158 है वाला तुम्हारा B, that is called to site I, that is called to warfarin. Which of the following physicochemical properties affect membrane permeability in distribution of a drug? Which of the following physicochemical properties affect membrane permeability in distribution of the drug? 159 D, that is called to all of the above. Molecular size, liquid solubility of the drug, degree of ionization. Okay. The binding of a drug to albumin is reversible in most of the cases because the formation of a weak bond, except Asuchi 160 D, covalent bonding. The binding of the drug to albumin is reversible in most of the cases because the formation of a weak bond. कौन सा weak bond? van der Waals forces, हाइड्रोजन बॉन्ड, हाइड्रोफोबिक फोर्सेस, ठीक अच्छे बड़ा कोटा नुहे कोवैलेंट बॉन्डिंग नुहे. The binding of the drug to the albumin is reversible. ये लौट करके आएगा. The binding of the drug to albumin is reversible in most of the cases because the formation of a weak bond. ये किस लिए लौट करके आ रहा है? van der Waals फोर्सेस के कारण, हाइड्रोजन बॉन्ड के कारण, हाइड्रोफोबिक फोर्सेस के कारण. बट कोवैलेंट बॉन्ड इसमें नहीं है. फॉर्मेशन ऑफ अ वीक बॉन्ड ये आएगा. बट कोवैलेंट बॉन्ड वीक बॉन्ड के कैटेगरी में नहीं है. डिस्पोजिशन इन्वॉल्व, क्या इन्वॉल्व करता है डिस्पोजिशन? 161 बी, बोथ ए एंड बी. एलिमिनेशन, डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन, ठीक है. A tablet of aceclofenac is given to a patient. The dose of aceclofenac 200 mg. After 2 hours, the concentration was found to be 10 microgram per ml. What is the volume of distribution of aceclofenac? What is the volume of distribution of aceclofenac? B होगा करेक्ट आंसर. 200 mg divided by 10 is equal to 20 liters. So apparent volume of distribution increased when apparent volume of distribution increased, ये बढ़ जाता है. apparent volume of distribution increases when 163, that is equal to A, more tissue binding of the drug, more tissue binding of the drug. Drug which bind selectively to extravascular tissue has apparent VD, that is equal to 164. ये होगा B, that is equal to equals to 42 liter. Drug which bind selectively to the extravascular tissue have apparent VD, that is equal to 42 liter. Which of the following type of a drug has tissue permeability as a rate limiting steps for drug distribution? 164 का कितना आ जाएगा? Which of the following type of a drug has tissue permeability as a rate limiting step for drug distribution? 165. 165 भी आपका हो जाएगा B, that is equal to both A and B, that is equal to lipophilic and आपका आ जाएगा हाइड्रोफिलिक, ठीक है. Which of the following part of a brain where the blood brain barrier does not exist? Which of the following part of a brain where blood brain barrier does not exist? Trigger area, hypothalamic. 166, ये है वाला C, both A and B, that is equal to trigger area, hypothalamic. यहाँ पर blood brain barrier नहीं है. Which of the following approaches have been used to promote crossing the blood-brain barrier by the drug? Which of the following approaches have been used to promote crossing the blood-brain barrier by the drug? 167. 167 ये वाला हमारा D, that is equal to all of the above. Use of a permission enhancer such as DMSO, osmotic disruption of a blood-brain barrier by mannitol, use of a dihydropyridine redox system. Okay, 168. Which of the following junction is responsible for low distribution of a drug to cerebrospinal from blood? Which of the following junction is responsible for low distribution of a drug to cerebrospinal from blood? 168. 168 A, that is called to choroidal cell junction. Choroidal cell junction. Which of the following barrier is responsible for transfer of a nutrient from mother to fetus? Which of the following barrier is responsible for transfer of a nutrient from the mother to the fetus? 169. 169 ହେଇଗଲା ତମର C, that is called to blood placental barrier. Blood placental barrier. Which of the following major rate determining steps in the distribution of the drug? Which of the following major rate determining steps in the distribution of the drug? Which of the following major rate determining step in the distribution of the drug? 170. 170 ହେଇଗଲା D, that is called to rate of tissue permeation, ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ହେଲା rate of blood perfusion. Correct. Insulin is used as a marker for the measurement of 171, that is called to B, extracellular fluid. If a drug has a very small volume of distribution VD, it is likely that this drug 172, that is called to B, does not accumulate in various organ. Okay, 172 khatam. Now आज हमने 132 process outside. If the distribution of the drug is slower, than the process of biotransformation and elimination. 173 C, causes failure to attain diffusion equilibrium. ठीक है. Total body water volume of 70 kg weight person. Total body water. अरे ये तो 42 लीटर शायद होगा. For the calculation of the volume of distribution VT, one take into account में आएगा 175 B, concentration of a substance in plasma. Okay. A non-volatile, highly lipid soluble drug is metabolized at a rate of 15% per hour. On intravenous injection, it produces general anesthesia for 10 minutes. Which process is responsible for termination of its action? I think no. Very distribution. Which of the following is most likely to be associated with a high apparent volume of distribution? 177 B, extensive binding to the tissue constituent. Okay. When atrial fibrillation persists on digoxin therapy, inadequate digoxin dose is suspected. Plasma level of digoxin for confirmation are taken after 4 hours of last dose, taking into consideration which of the following? When atrial fibrillation persists on digoxin therapy, inadequate digoxin dose is suspected. Plasma level of digoxin for confirmation are taken after 6 hours of last dose, taking into consideration which of the following? 178 B, rate of distribution. When atrial fibrillation persists on digoxin therapy, inadequate digoxin dose is suspected. Plasma level of digoxin for confirmation are taken after 6 hours of last dose, taking into consideration which of the following? Rate of distribution. Okay, थोड़ा protein binding of the drug. Which of the following drug binds to the alpha globulin? 179 ये वाला बी व्हिच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग ड्रग बाइंड टू द अल्फा ग्लोबुलिन 179 vitamin A D K okay the molecular weight of hemoglobin is 180 ହେଇଗଲା सी 64,500 चूज द करेक्ट ऑप्शन इनमें से करेक्ट ऑप्शन कौन है सी बीटा तमर फॉल्स हम टिश्यू ड्रग बाइंडिंग इज ए स्ट्रॉन्ग एंड कोवैलेंट बॉन्ड 10 रिवर्सिबल बिल्कुल गलत है तापर टिश्यू ड्रग बाइंडिंग इज ए स्ट्रॉन्ग एंड कोवैलेंट 10 इरिवर्सिबल ड्रग दैट बाइंड टू extravascular tissue has a large volume of distribution. Tissue drug binding is generally non-competitive. Tissue drug binding is generally non-competitive. Which of the following is not a site for HSA, human serum albumin? 182 ये वाला तमरा सी टिमोलॉल 182 सी टिमोलॉल स्कैचर्ड प्लॉट क्लॉज पॉट एंड हिचकॉक प्लॉट associated with 183 ये वाला तमरा ए दैट इज कॉल्ड टू प्रोटीन बाइंडिंग Okay. Identify the incorrect statement about plasma protein binding. Identify the incorrect statement about plasma protein binding. 184 है वाला तमरा D that is called to tissue toxicity is a very common phenomenon. When comparing three structurally related antihypertensive agents, which of the following activities would be predicted for the drug that is mostly highly protein bound? 185 ये वाला तुम्हारा B that is called to triple I only. Okay, a longer half life. Protein binding in the blood is mostly significant with the drug that possesses which of the following characteristic? 186 ये वाला तमरा A that is called to I double I correct. Easily displaced from protein binding site तापर होची therapeutic action occur within the cell. An important protein that bind most of the basic drug is an important protein alpha acid glycoprotein. An important protein that bind most of the basic drug is alpha acid glycoprotein. Identify the kind of interaction that are typically involved in binding a drug to the binding site of a protein. 188 ये वाला D that is called to a combination of all of above. Predominantly van der Waal interaction, predominantly ionic bond, predominantly hydrogen bond. A combination of all of the above. Okay. Which of the following statement best describe an induced peak? Which of the following statement best describe an induced peak? 189 ये वाला C. The process by which binding of a drug to a binding site alter the shape of the binding site. Which of the following 189 का C है. Okay. Which of the following description most accurately describe binding site and a binding region? 190 है तुम्हारा B. A binding region is a part of a binding site. Okay. Which of the following term is used to describe a drug that has the same effect on a receptor as the endogenous chemical messenger 191 ये वाला तुम्हारा ए agonist transferrin transportin ceruloplasmin terms are associated with 192 ये वाला तुम्हारा कैसी ग्लोब्यूलिन ठीक है transferrin transcortin ceruloplasmin terms are associated with globulin 192 ये वाला C. The attachment of a drug molecule to a protein effectively making the drug inactive 193 ये वाला C, that is called to protein binding. In hypoalbuminemia protein binding may be reduced and result in 194 ये वाला हमारा B, that is called to high concentration of a free drug in the blood ठीक है 194 B. When comparing a highly protein bound drug to its less or non protein bound analog, what will the highly bound drug probably have? When comparing a highly protein bound drug to its less or non protein bound analog, what will be the highly bound drug probably have? 195 ये वाला तुम्हारा C, that is called to double I triple I only. A longer biological half life, slower diffusion into the tissue. स्वाद को प्रमोट करेंगे इरिटेड लग रहे हैं identify the incorrect match in context to binding site of HAS. Identify the incorrect match in context to binding site of HS 196 ये वाला C, that is called to site double I azapropazone binding site. Which statement is correct? 197 A. Mainly acidic drug bind to the albumin. Which one of the following plasma protein has high affinity for binding with the drug? Which one of the following plasma protein has high affinity for binding with the drug? 198 HSA. Larger dose of digoxin requirement to the infant as compared to the young age patient is due to larger dose of digoxin requirement to infant as compared to young age patient is due to 199 ये वाला तुम्हारा C both A and B, that is called to greater protein binding of a drug, large renal clearance of the drug. Which one of the following process is responsible for higher half-life of a drug? Which one of the following process is responsible for higher half-life of a drug? Which one of the following process is responsible for higher half-life of a drug? Protein binding. The phenomenon of a complex formation with protein is called as protein binding, biotransformation of the drug. Rate limiting step in oxidation of a xenobiotics. Rate limiting step in oxidation of a xenobiotics 202. B. Transfer of one electron from NADPH to the complex by cytochrome P450 reductase to form reduced Fe plus 2 P450 substrate complex. Match the following. Conjugation reaction 203. B. One is Q. Blue chlorination. এটা হব UDPGA. Sulfation. PAPS. Amino acid conjugation. Acyl coenzyme A. Acetylation. Acetylation activated intermediate. Acetylation activated intermediates. 4 ହେଇଯିବ ତମର R. Acetyl coenzyme A. ठीक है 203 वाला B. Which of the following is not an example of a drug undergoing acetylation reaction? That is salicylic acid. Which of the following is a property of an enzyme inducer except 205 ये वाला D. They are hydrophilic compound. Hydrophilic compound. No. Which of the following is the property of a enzyme inducer? Enzyme inducer का property क्या है? They are lipophilic compound. Lipid loving. They are substrate for inducted enzyme system. They are substrate for inducted enzyme system. They have long elimination half-life. Okay. Which of the following is the feature of a CYPS except 206? C बटे most mammalian enzymes are associated with the hydrophilic membrane. Which of the following is a feature of a CYP? All P450 use iron to catalyze the reaction with substrate. They all have reductase enzyme system that supply them with reducing power to fuel their metabolic activity. They all bind activate oxygen as part of the process of metabolism. Cytochrome P450 cytochrome P450 reductase is a कौन 207 है B. Flavoprotein NADPH dependent. ठीक है जी. The correct order of a majority of a drug that bind to extravascular tissue is. The correct order of a majority of a drug that bind to extravascular tissue is 2208 A. Liver रे ज़्यादा. The correct order of a majority of a drug that bind to. The correct order of a majority of a drug that bind to extravascular tissue is. liver पहले आएगा, उसके बाद किडनी आएगा, उसके बाद लंग आएगा, उसके बाद मसल आएगा. LKLM. liver, kidney, lung muscle, liver, kidney, lung muscle. Phase 2 reaction are a real drug detoxification pathway because all of the above. So product of a phase 2 reaction are absolutely free of a pharmacological activity, easily excretable either in bile or urine, tissue reactive and carcinogenic metabolites form, tissue reactive and carcinogenic metabolite form, tissue reactive and carcinogenic metabolite form. थोड़ा लिखी चाहिए tissue reactive and carcinogenic metabolite form, wholly tissue reactive and carcinogenic metabolite form. ये तो लिखुची the substantial degradation of an oral administered drug caused by enzyme metabolism in the liver before the drug reaches the systemic circulation. 210. The substantial degradation of an oral administered drug caused by enzyme metabolism in the liver before the drug reaches the systemic circulation. The substantial degradation of an oral administered drug caused by enzyme metabolism in the liver before the drug reaches the systemic circulation. अरे fast metabolism क्यों परेशान होते हो? तो आज आम लगभग 70 क्वेश्चन आज आम करदेलु तापरे 70 100 पार करवा कारण आम 30 34 35 क्वेश्चन आई थिंक मुझे करी तेणु टे 100 क्वेश्चन आज निहाती करवा तो देखिए 100 क्वेश्चन आज पार लगेगा बायोफार्मास्यूटिक्स रे टोटाली 700 क्वेश्चन आसुची भाविनियो तुम गोटे दिन में यदि 700 क्वेश्चन मार ताले खाली पढ़ी देले तुम केवल पाई क्वेश्चन यही भितर नहीं बाहर आसबार केते बाहर से पकड़ सब पढ़ी पुड़ा दे पकड़ तीन सौ मारदेवी गोटे शांति लगे ओके which of the following is the correct decreasing order correct decreasing order of the drug metabolism का करेक्ट डिक्रीजिंग ऑर्डर ये होने का संभावना मुझे लगता है 211 ए which of the following is the correct decreasing order of a drug metabolism का जो करेक्ट डिक्रीजिंग ऑर्डर सबुठारु अधिक डिक्रीज ड्रग अगर ड्रग का मेटाबॉलिज्म हम ताले सबुठारु अधिक डिक्रीजिंग कोठा हो प्रथम लिवर हम तापर लंग्स हम तापर किडनी हम लिवर लंग्स किडनी एलएलएम तापर इंटेस्टाइन तापर प्लासेंटा तापर स्किन तापर एड्रेनल्स करेक्ट व्हाट इज द फंक्शन ऑफ अ फॉस्फाटिडाइल choline phosphatidylcholine in multi-enzyme mixed function oxidase system located in endoplasmic reticulum. What is the function of a phosphatidylcholine in multi-enzyme mixed function oxidase system located in the endoplasmic reticulum? 212 ये वाला तमरो सी 212 वाला सी that is called to facilitate electron transfer from NADPH to cytochrome 450. Okay. What is the function of a flavoprotein located in the endoplasmic reticulum? What is the function of a flavoprotein located in the endoplasmic reticulum? 213 फ्लावोप्रोटीन का फंक्शन क्या है जो कि एंडोप्लाज्मिक रेटिकुलम में लोकेटेड है? ओके 213 रिड्यूसिंग द साइटोक्रोम 450 टू द फेरस फॉर्म. रिड्यूसिंग द साइटोक्रोम 450 टू द फेरस फॉर्म. क्लोराम्फेनिकल palmitate and chloramphenicol basylate with the same dose strength comes under 214. ये होला तमरा सी फार्मास्यूटिकल अल्टरनेटिव. Therapeutic equivalence drug do not have 215. A same dose strength. In metabolism of xenobiotics, all of the following reaction occur in phase 1 except 216 C conjugation. The following agent are the example of active drug getting metabolized into active metabolite except 217 ये वाला तमरा C that is called to spironolactone. ठीक है. Which does not affect metabolism of oral contraceptive pill. Which does not affect metabolism of oral contraceptive pill. ओरल कॉन्ट्रासेप्टिव पिल का मेटाबॉलिज्म को क्या अफेक्ट नहीं करता है? 218 ये वाला टी पेनिसिलिन. The metabolic reaction which makes the metabolite of a codeine more pharmacologically potent analgesic is. The metabolic reaction which makes the metabolite of a codeine more pharmacologically potent analgesic is, that is called to, I think, dealkylation. Most common phase 2 drug metabolizing reaction is. Most common phase 2 drug metabolizing reaction is 220 है तमरा A that is called to glucuronidation. Select the drug that undergoes extensive fast pass metabolism in the liver. I think propranolol. ठीक है. Select the drug that undergoes extensive fast pass metabolism in the liver. Propranolol. Which does not induce microsomal enzyme. Which does not induce microsomal enzyme. 222 ये ला A cimetidine. Which one of the following drug does not undergoes hepatic fast pass metabolism? प्रोप्रानोलोल को जाता है लिडोकैन. आई थिंक ये कुछ ऐसा इंसुलिन.
Non-synthetic phase 2 phase I reaction for drug detoxification is oxidation 224. Non-synthetic phase 1 reaction for drug non-synthetic phase 1 reaction for drug detoxification is oxidation. One of the potential microsomal enzyme inhibitor drug is C. Sodium valproate. Cytochrome P450 most commonly involved in drug metabolism 226 A. That is called to CYP3A4. Cytochrome P450 most commonly involved in drug metabolism. साइटोक्रोम P450 का कौन सा CYP3A4 जो कि ड्रग मेटाबॉलिज्म में बहुत कॉमनली इन्वॉल्व होता है. Which of the following is not an oxidative type of a drug metabolism? Which of the following is not an इनमें से कौन नहीं है ऑक्सीडेटिव टाइप ऑफ अ ड्रग मेटाबॉलिज्म 227. ये गला डी ग्लूकोर्निडेशन. Which of the following is an effect of a grapefruit juice on drug metabolism 228. B. Enzyme inhibitor. Induction of a drug metabolizing enzyme involved. Induction of a drug metabolizing enzyme involved 229. D. 229 D. That is called to increase the synthesis of a enzyme protein. Hydrolysis reaction are involved with the metabolism of the following drug. Hydrolysis reaction are involved with the metabolism of the following drug except asuchi 230B diazepam. Hydrolysis reaction are involved with the metabolism of the following drug except asuchi diazepam. Diazepam रे hydrolysis reaction होबनी. Hydrolysis reaction are involved with the metabolism of the following drug. Procaine रे होबो, aspirin रे होबो, lidocaine रे होबो, but diazepam रे होबनी. Which of the following functional group is most susceptible to hydrolysis 231. B. RCOR. Oxidation in biotransformation is 232. ये वाला तमरा A. Functionalization reaction ठीक है 232. Name the conjugation reaction which is considered as an intermediate of a phase 1 and phase II reaction 233. 233 होगा तुम्हारा C. That is called to methylation. Name the conjugation reaction which is considered as an intermediate of a phase 1 phase 2 reaction methylation. When compared to the parent compound, metabolites usually have 234. ये वाला तुम्हारा A. Greater water solubility. Oxidation of ethanol, estrogen, benzodiazepine, salicylate in women is that compared to men. Oxidation of ethanol. Okay. Oxidation of ethanol, estrogen, benzodiazepine and salicylate in women is what compared to men 235 B. That is called to decrease. salicylate in women में ये डिक्रीज हो जाएगा मेन कंपैरिजन में। ओके ठीक है। Which of the following is not a characteristic of a moieties that are transferred to the substrate in phase 2 reaction? Which of the following is not a characteristic of the moieties that are transferred to the substrate in phase 2 reaction? 236 ये वाला हमारा डी strong non-polar group are attached। ठीक है 236 which of the following drug has self induction to stimulate their own metabolism? Which of the following drug has self induction to stimulate their own metabolism? 237 ये वाला सी meprobamate। What is the name of the process where structurally different compound interact with enzyme and prevent the metabolism of the drug? 238 ये वाला हमारा सी that is called to non-competitive inhibition। ठीक है जी 238 हमारा सी non-competitive inhibition। The increase in hepatic enzyme activity that result in greater metabolism of a drug। The increase in hepatic enzyme activity that result in greater metabolism of a drug। 239 ये वाला तुम्हारा D that is called to enzyme induction। The decrease in hepatic enzyme activity that result in reduced metabolism of the drug is 240 ये वाला D enzyme inhibition। The decrease in hepatic enzyme activity that result in reduced metabolism of a drug है enzyme inhibition। The transfer of a drug and their metabolites from the liver to the bile in the gallbladder, then to the intestine and then back into the circulation is known as, I think B होगा 241 yes enterohepatic cycling। The transfer of a drug and their metabolites from the liver to the bile in the gallbladder and then into the intestine and then back into the circulation is known as enterohepatic cycling। The process of a metabolism and excretion इसको क्या बोलते हैं? Disposition, absorption, elimination, antagonist harmony। I think 2 होगा B 242 B। Okay, disposition। Where are non-microsomal enzyme present? 243 ये वाला C in the cytoplasm in soluble form। Okay, the rate and extent of a drug reaching the systemic circulation is known as systemic circulation में अरे ये C होगा ये सोचो correct। Primary route of a drug excretion of a drug and their metabolite is bile, urine, saliva अरे ये भी C होगा 245 C। Okay, which process is not included in the study of a drug disposition? Which process is not included? इनमें से कौन सा process included नहीं है in the study of a drug disposition में? Okay, absorption, excretion, distribution, metabolism। Which process is not included in the study of a drug? I can see 246 very bad absorption। 246 absorption। The primary site of a drug metabolism in the body। primary site अरे liver होगा 5 237 चलो बायोट्रांसफॉर्मेशन ऑफ इप्रोनियाजाइड टू isoniazide leads to changes in pharmacological activity. Conjugating agent for amino acid conjugation is conjugating agent for amino acid conjugation. B, I think. Conjugating agent for glucuronidation is जिसको समझता हूँ 250 आज 100टा क्वेश्चन ऑलरेडी प्रैक्टिस हो सारे आउ खाली 50टा क्वेश्चन कले आम 300 नंबर पार हो 300 पूरा 300टा क्वेश्चन आज बायो फार्मास्यूटिक्स पूरा हो बट दिन अनुसार देखिए 100 समथिंग हो 130 फेज 2 रिएक्शन कौन फेज 2 रिएक्शन 251 D all of the above. Products are highly water soluble, invert covalent attachment of a small polar endogenous molecule with the drug. Products are excreted via kidney or bile. Biotransformation convert complex drug into polar and water soluble form. Biotransformation of a phenytoin to para-hydroxyphenytoin leads to 253 C. Pharmacological inactivation 253. Biotransformation of a aspirin to salicylic acid leads to 254 C. Biotransformation of aspirin to salicylic acid leads to pharmacological activation. Okay. Phase 1 reaction called 255 reduces stability of the drug. Phase 1 reaction में stability of the drug reduces हो जाए. Facilitate conjugation reaction को facilitate करियो. तापर increases hydrophilicity of the drug. हाइड्रोफिलिसिटी ड्रग को बढ़ेगा वाटर लॉगिंग फेज ट्रिपल आई रिएक्शन पर 256 ये भी तुम्हारा डी है वो ऑल ऑफ द टॉक्सिसिटी ऑफ अ कंजुगेट टू वेरियस सेल कंपोनेंट हाइड्रोलिसिस ऑफ अ कंजुगेट बैक टू द ओरिजिनल रिएक्टिव स्पीशीज इनिबिशन ऑफ अ फेज 2 एंजाइम. Now, conjugating agent for methylation is 257 D. L-methionine. Biotransformation of a paracetamol to iminoquinone of a N-hydroxylated metabolite lead to use of D. Toxicological activation. Okay, 258 है तुम्हारा D. Toxicological activation. Okay. Biotransformation of a codeine to morphine leads to 259 D. No change in pharmacological activity. Biotransformation result कौन तुमको देगा? All of the above. Occasionally yield metabolites with equal activity. Normally results pharmacological inactivation of a drug. Rarely leads to toxicological activation of the drug. conjugating agent for acetylation is 261 ହେଇଗଲା ତମର A, that is called to acetyl coenzyme A. On a product the label states protect from light. What type of decomposition does the product undergoes? On a product the label states protect from light. What type of decomposition does the product undergoes? 62 oxidation. Aspirin undergoes decomposition in a formulation. It can be prevented by 63 D. Suppressing its solubility. Which one of the following is primarily not a chemical decomposition? Which one of the following is primarily not a chemical decomposition? That is called 264. 264 ହେଇଗଲା ତମର D. That is called volatilization. Phase 2 reaction of a drug biotransformation. 265 ହେଇଗଲା D. Leads to inactivation of the drug. जय श्री राम. The rate of desorption is proportional to the rate of desorption is proportional to the 266. ये वाला B. Covered surface. Okay. The rate of desorption is proportional to the covered surface. The half-life for the first order photolysis of a cefotaxime solution contains 150 mg drug is 50 minutes. If 1 ml of aliquot after 90 minutes of exposure to light was found to contain 0.43 milligram of cefotaxime, what was the original volume of the solution? 267. ये वाला D 140 liter. Okay. What test uses microsomal extract? What test uses microsomal extract from the ER for in vitro drug metabolism studies? A. Amines test. Okay. 268. Tomorrow A SEO correct answer. Okay. What effect does plasma protein binding have on biotransformation? What effect does what effect dose what effect dose या dose what effect dose plasma protein binding have on dose as well. What effect does plasma protein binding have on biotransformation? What effect does plasma protein binding slow the process? Glucuronidation process results in 270. A. Increased biliary excretion of the drug. an agent used to determine the hepatic function is an agent used to determine the hepatic function is 271 ये गला C that is called to sulfobromophthalin ठीक है जी an agent used to determine the hepatic function एक ऐसा एजेंट का नाम बताओ जो डिटरमाइन करता है हेपाटिक फंक्शन को हेपाटिक मतलब लीवर का फंक्शन को दैट इज कॉल्ड टू सल्फोब्रोमोफ्थालिन Which one of the following is not a detoxification reaction? 271 का क्या हो जाएगा करेक्ट आंसर सी करेक्ट ओके 272 बी paracetamol to iminoquinone ओके 272 आपका हो जाएगा करेक्ट आंसर बी Which one of the following is not a detoxification reaction? इनमें से कौन सा एक डिटॉक्सिफिकेशन रिएक्शन नहीं है दैट इज कॉल्ड पैरासीटामोल टू इम्यूनोक्विनोन ओके ये डिटॉक्सिफिकेशन रिएक्शन नहीं है आइसोनियाजिड इज बायोट्रांसफॉर्म्ड बाय आइसोनियाजिड 273 ये वाला ए एसिटाइलेशन Isoniazid is biotransformed by acetylation. Oxazepam is a metabolite of कौन? Oxazepam is a metabolite of 274. 274 ये है वाला तुम्हारा बी ऑक्साजेपम इज ए मेटाबोलाइट ऑफ किसका डाइजेपम 274 ओके starvation result in decreased extent of reactivity of one of the following conjugation reaction 275 glucuronide 275 glucuronide okay what type of reaction is included in phase 1 biotransformation of a drug oxidation what type of reaction is included in phase 1 biotransformation of a drug oxidation select a drug whose major metabolite has therapeutically significant pharmacologically active select a drug whose major metabolite जिसका major metabolite has therapeutically significant pharmacological activity 277 ये वाला तुम्हारा B that is called to diazepam all CYP 450 require one of the following metal ion as a catalyst ferrous 278 correct ferrous cytochrome P 450 induction is often associated with one of the following except 279 ये वाला तुम्हारा D 279 ये वाला तुम्हारा B that is called to supplying more metal ion 279 हमारा ये वाला D ओके enzyme involved in conjugation reaction are known as conjugation reaction में कौन सा enzyme correct transferase Which of the following is not a biotransformation? 281 D. Which one of the following is not a biotransformation? Penicillin to penicillinic acid in stomach. Penicillin to penicillinic acid in stomach. Okay, फटाफट. Which of the following chemical groups is least susceptible to cytochrome P450 enzyme? Which of the following chemical groups is least susceptible to cytochrome P450 enzyme? 22. Correct. Quaternary carbon. Name the reaction involved for biosynthesis of adrenaline. Yes. Named phase 2 biotransformation reaction. Named phase 2 biotransformation reaction of less commonly observed in the detoxification of the drug. Name phase 2 biotransformation reaction of less commonly observed in the detoxification of the drug. Acetylation 24. No. So आरामोड वाली sulfate. पहला ऑप्शन मेरा क्लियर था. Which organ is extensively involved in drug metabolism? अरे लिवर. कहीं को तुम परेशान होते हो. In general notation, biotransformation normally refers to one of the following characteristics. In general notation, biotransformation normally refers to one of the following characteristics. Biotransformation: convert lipid soluble drug to water soluble substance, convert water soluble drug into lipid soluble substance, deactivates the drug, increases the molecular. ये दोनों तो होंगे नहीं. Biotransformation. In general notation, biotransformation normally refers to one of the following characteristics. Biotransformation. Yes. Satyam Shivam Sundaram. Which of the drug metabolizing reaction is entirely microsomal? Which of the following drug metabolizing reaction? ऐसा reaction जो drug को metabolize करता है is entirely microsomal. मेरे बच्चे सीधे मुझे लगता है अपेक्षित तरीका कोऑर्डिनेशन पे चूज किया था. Name the enzyme involved in amino acid conjugation. B चला. Yes. Which is the phase 2 drug biotransformation reaction? Which is phase 2 biotransformation reaction? Okay. No. Which of the following statement is not true about cytochrome P450 enzyme? 290. They contain heme and magnesium. Okay. In glucuronidation reaction, oxazepam, the functional group undergoing biotransformation reaction. In glucuronidation reaction, oxazepam, the functional group undergoing biotransformation reaction. 291. A. OH group. Morphine undergoes microsomal oxidation by one of the following reaction. Morphine undergoes microsomal oxidation reaction by one of the following reaction. 292. ये वाला B. N dealkylation. 292. liver microsomal enzyme are stimulated by enzyme induction ठीक আছে liver microsomal enzyme are stimulated by 293 ये ହେଇଯିବ ତମର C phenobarbital what are xenobiotics 294 D anything that is not nutrients and enters the body through different route what is the active form of aspirin salicylic acid 295C yes what are soft drug करो 296 no 296 B chemical drug which are already found in the body what are soft drug 296 B chemical drug which are already found in the body okay 297 which of the following is not a phase double I reaction 297 no reduction 297 C reduction which of the following is not a prodrug which of the following is a prodrug कोडिन आपका एक है prodrug which of the following is a prodrug morphine codeine aspirin ibuprofen digitoxin yes aspirin excretion of the drug when the renal clearance ml per minute renal clearance को यूनिट होची ml per minute is less than 130 which statement is true B drug filtered and reabsorbed partially the excretion ratio is कौन 380 C renal clearance ratio is equal to renal clearance of the drug divided by renal clearance of a creatinine which marker is widely used to assess the renal function creatinine if molecular weight of a drug is above 500 Dalton excretion pattern will be excretion mainly in bile less than 5% excreted in urine okay ठीक है if molecular weight of a drug एक ड्रग का molecular weight अगर 500 डाल्टन से above आएगा ठीक है above आएगा तो एक्सक्रीशन पैटर्न क्या हो जाएगा एक्सक्रीशन आपका मेनली बाइल में होगा and less than 5% is excreted in urine 5% से कम आपका यूरिन में एक्सक्रीट होगा बाकी सब बाइल में चला जाएगा अगर आपका मॉलिक्यूलर वेट जो ड्रग का 500 डाल्टन से ज़्यादा है तो now the phenomenon of a drug cycling between the intestine and liver is called The phenomenon of a drug cycling between the intestine and a liver. Intestine, liver. Enterohepatic circulation Three unionized lipophilic drug excreted by which route? 3 भी रहेगा, अनआयोनाइज्ड रहेगा, लिपोफिलिक ड्रग भी रहेगा, एक्सक्रीटेड बाय व्हिच रूट? यूरिन में तो हवन बाइल में चला जाएगा। 305 saliva. The maximum pharmacological response produced by the peak plasma concentration. The maximum pharmacological response produced by the peak plasma concentration of the drug is known as duration of action, intensity, onset. Intensity of action. The maximum pharmacological response. Maximum produced by the peak plasma concentration of the drug. Which of the following is a competitive inhibitor of organication transport system? Organic cation transport system. Which of the following is a competitive inhibitor? Which of the following is competitive inhibitor of organic cation transport system? पता नहीं है, तो इसे साफ है। A value of a creatinine clearance of 20 to 50 ml per minute denotes 300 AV. Moderate renal failure. In case of a drug which are secreted or reabsorbed actively, the rate process increased with the rate process increased with. In case of a drug which are secreted or reabsorbed actively, the rate process increased with increased in plasma concentration. Which of the following is true for strongly acidic drug? pK less than 2.0. Which of the following is true for a strongly acidic drug? 310. B. Ionize at all value of urine pH, therefore not reabsorb. Ionize at all value of urine pH, therefore not reabsorb. 310. Which of the following is true for strongly acidic drug? Which of the following is true for a strongly acidic drug? Ionize at all value of urine pH, therefore not reabsorb. Which of the following is true for a strongly acidic drug? For a strongly acidic drug जिसका पीके वैल्यू लेस देन 2.0 रहेगा, तो which of the following is true for a strongly acidic drug? Okay. Ionized at all value of urine pH, यूरिन पीएच के सारे वैल्यू में आयोनाइज होने चाहिए, therefore not absorb. Not reabsorb. So ଆଜି ଆମେ ପାଖାପାଖି କେତେ 110 300 करके हमें कितने देते 200 ରୁ 300 ଆମେ ଥିଲେ 200 ଆମେ एक्चुअली 200 ये ହେଇଗଲା 110 ସିଏ ପାଖାପାଖି ଆମେ ଆଜି କରିଥିଲେ କେତେ शायद 33 34 या 35 क्वेश्चन ठीक अच्छे तो 33 34 करते ताले आमर आईଯିव के 70 70 ହେଇଗଲେ 5 ହେଇଗଲେ କେତେ 65 65 ଇଏ 10 75 ବୋଧେ समथिंग କେତେ ଆସିବ 175 ପାଖାପାଖି କଲେ ଆଉ 175 80 ସେଇ ଭିତରେ तो आज ब्लॉग रे आम क्वेश्चन बायोफार्मास्यूटिक्स कंप्लीट करें प्रैक्टिस क्वेश्चन प्रैक्टिस ना आज के ब्लॉग में इतना ही क्योंकि ब्लॉग बहुत बड़ा हो जाएगा तो इसी ब्लॉग को यहीं पर रखते हैं बाय कितने हो गला 1.5 घंटा वीडियो